Haribo, Haribo, testing, Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. This is Vedic Paradigm, uh, chapter on cosmology. The coiled body of the Shishumara chakra turns towards its right side, on which the 14 constellations from Abhijit to Punarvasu are located. On its left side are the 14 stars from Pusya to Uttarrasadha. Thus, its body is balanced because its sides are occupied by an equal number of stars. On the back of the Shishumara is the group of stars known as Ajaviti, and on its abdomen is the Ganges that flows in the sky, the Milky Way. On the right and left sides of where the loins might be on the Shishumara chakra are the stars named Punarvasu and Pushya. Ardra and Ashlesha are on its right and left feet. Abhijit and Uttarasada are on its right and left nostrils. Shravana and Purvashadha are at its right and left eyes. And Dhanishta and Mula are on its right and left ears. The 8 stars from Magha to Anuradha, which mark the southern course, are on the ribs of the left of its body. And the 8 stars from Mrigashirsha to Purvabhadra, which mark the northern course, are on the ribs of the right side. Shatabisha and Dyasta are on the right and left shoulders. On the upper chin of the Shishumara is Agasti. On its lower chin, Yamaraja on its mouth, Mars on its genitals, Saturn on the back of its neck, Jupiter on its chest. Oh, wait. On the upper chin of the Shishumara is Agasti. On its lower chin, Yamaraja. On its mouth, Mars. On its genitals, Saturn. On the back of its neck, Jupiter. On its chest, the Sun. And within the core of its heart, Narayan. Within its mind is the moon on its navel, Venus. Within its mind is the moon. On its navel, Venus. And on its breasts, the Ashvini Kumaras. Within its life air, which is known as Pranapana, is Mercury. On its neck is Rahu. All over its body are comets. And in its pores are the numerous stars. Lord Vishnu, who is the source of knowledge and transcendental bliss, has assumed the form of Shishumara in the 7th heaven, which is situated in the topmost level of the universe. All the other planets, beginning with the Sun, exist under the shelter of this Shishumara planetary system. The pole star. Random House Webster's Dictionary defines the pole star under the listing of Polaris. The pole star, or the North Star, the pole star or the North Star, a star of the 2nd magnitude situated close to the North Pole of the heavens. In the constellation Ursa Minor, the outermost star is the handle of the Little Dipper. Dhuvaloka, the pole star, is 30,400,000 miles above the sun. The 7 stars revolving around the pole star at the zenith are called Saptarsi Mandala. On these 7 stars, which form the topmost part of our planetary system, reside 7 sages: Kashyapa, Atri, Vashishta, Vishvamitra, Gautama, Jamadagni, and Paladvaja. These 7 stars are seen every night, and they each make a complete orbit around the pole star within 24 hours. Along with these 7 stars, all the other stars also orbit from east to west. The upper portion of the universe is called the north, and the lower portion is called the south. Even in our ordinary dealings, while studying a map, we regard the upper portion of the map as north. Above Dhruvaloka by 18 million miles is Maharloka. Above Maharloka by 160 million miles is Janaloka. Above Janaloka by 160 million miles is Tapaloka. And above Tapaloka by 960 million miles is Satyaloka. Thus, the distance from the Sun to Satyaloka is 1,870,400,000 miles. The Vishnu Purana describes that the covering of the universe is 2,080,000,000 miles away from the sun. The distance from the sun to the earth is 100,000 yoganas. And below the earth by 70,000 yojanas are the seven lower planetary systems called Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. Below these lower planets are 240 miles. Shesha Naga is lying on the Garbhodaka Ocean, which emanates from his own perspiration. That ocean is 1,998,400,000 miles deep and fills half the universe. The other half is the spherical dome within which the innumerable planetary systems exist. Thus, the total diameter of the universe is approximately 4 billion miles. 80,000 miles below the sun is the planet known as Rahu, which moves like one of the stars. Below Rahu by 80,000 miles are the planets known as Siddhaloka, Charanaloka, and Vidyadaraloka. Beneath Vidyadaraloka and Charanaloka and Siddhaloka in the sky called Antariksha are the places of enjoyment for the yakshas, rakshasas, pishachas, ghosts, and so on. Antariksha extends as far as the wind blows and the clouds float in the sky. Above this, there is no more air. Below the abodes of the yakshas and rakshasas, by a distance of 800 miles, is the planet Earth. Its upper limits extend as high as swans, hawks, eagles, and similar large birds can fly. Beneath this Earth are seven other planets known as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. The width and length of the seven lower planetary systems are calculated to be exactly the same as those of Earth. In these seven planetary systems, which are also known as the subterranean heavens, Bilasvarga, there are very beautiful houses, gardens, and places of sense enjoyment, which are even more opulent than those in the higher planets, because the demons have a very high standard of sensual pleasure, wealth, and influence. All the hellish planets are situated in the intermediate space between the three worlds and the Garbhodaka Ocean. They lie on the southern side of the universe, beneath Bhumandala, and slightly above the water of Garbhodaka Ocean. Pitriloka is also located in this region between Garbhodaka Ocean and the lower planetary systems. There are many invisible planets in the stars. For example, when the Rahu planet passes before the sun and moon, there is an eclipse. But the scientists describe an eclipse differently. Actually, the Rahu planet causes an eclipse. Interplanetary travel. If we desire to go to other planets, there is a process for going there. It is also mentioned Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pritrin Yantri Pritri Vrata. No mechanical arrangement is necessary if we want interplanetary travel. The Gita instructs Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. The moon, the sun, and higher planets are called Svargaloka. There are three different statuses of planets: higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. The Earth belongs to the middle planetary system. Bhagavad Gita informs us how to travel to the higher planetary systems, Devaloka, with a very simple formula. Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. One need only worship the particular demigod of that particular planet, and in that way go to the moon, the sun, or any of the higher planetary systems. On higher planets, there are women many, many millions of times more beautiful than the women on this planet. And there are also many pleasure abodes where they can be enjoyed. The best of all of these is the Nandana Gardens on Svargaloka. In the Nandana Gardens, a Garden of Eden, those who are qualified can enjoy varieties of beautiful women called apsaras. Demigods generally enjoy the company of the apsaras in the same way that the great Mughal kings and nawabs enjoyed their uh, harems. But these kings and nawabs are like straw before the demigods of Svargaloka, which lies in the third stratum of the universe. There are undoubtedly different planetary systems for different persons. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 14.18, Urdvam gach, Gachanti Sattva Staha. Persons in the mode of goodness can go to the upper planets. Those in the modes of darkness and passion, however, are not allowed to enter the higher planets. The word Devam refers to the higher planetary system known as Svargaloka. Indra, king of the higher planetary system, has the power to push down any conditioned soul attempting to go from the lower to higher planets without proper qualifications. The modern attempt to go to the moon is also an attempt by inferior men to go to Svargaloka by artificial mechanical means. This attempt cannot be successful. From this statement of Indra, it appears that anyone attempting to go to the higher planetary systems by mechanical means, which are here called Maya, is condemned to go to the hellish planets in the lower portion of the universe. To go to the higher planetary system, one needs sufficient good qualities. A sinful person situated in the mode of ignorance and addicted to drinking, meat eating, and illicit sex will never enter the higher planets by mechanical means. The heavenly planets are inhabited by demigods like Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and Vayu, and the pious souls reach there after performance of many virtuous acts on earth. Modern scientists agree that the timing arrangement in higher planetary systems is different from that of the earth. Thus, it is understood from the revealed scriptures that the duration of life there is 10,000 years by our calculation. 6 months on Earth is equal to 1 day on the heavenly planets. Facilities of enjoyment are also similarly enhanced, and the beauty of the inhabitants is legendary. Common men on the Earth are very much fond of reaching the heavenly planets because they have heard that comforts of life are far greater there than on Earth. They are now trying to reach the moon by spacecraft. Considering all this, the heavenly planets are more celebrated than the Earth. Narada Muni, the eternal spaceman. Narada tells of his former lives. Long, long ago, in another Mahakalpa, millennium of Brahma, I existed as the Gandharva known as Uparbharhana. I was very respected by the other Gandharvas. I had a beautiful face and a pleasing, attractive bodily structure. Decorated with flower garlands and sandalwood pulp, I was most pleasing to the women of my city. Thus I was bewildered, always feeling lusty desires. Once there was a Sankirtan festival to glorify the Supreme Lord in an assembly of the demigods. And the Gandharvas and Apsaras were invited by the Prajapatis to take part in it. Being invited to that festival, I also joined, and surrounded by women, I began musically singing the glories of the demigods. Because of this, the Prajapatis, the great demigods in charge of the affairs of the universe, forcefully cursed me with these words: because you have committed an offense, may you immediately become a Shudra, devoid of beauty. O Muni, in the last millennium, I was born as the son of a certain maidservant engaged in the service of Brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service. Although they were impartial by nature, those followers of the Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I was concerned, I was self-controlled and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty, and I did not speak more than required. Once only, by their permission, I took the remnants of their food, and by doing so, all my sins were at once eradicated. Thus, being engaged, I became purified in heart. And at that time, the very nature of the transcendentalist became attractive to me. O Vyasadeva, in that association and by the mercy of those great Vedantists, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna. And thus, listening attentively, my taste for hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step. O great sage, as soon as they got a taste for the personality of Godhead, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. And as my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings. For both the Lord and I are transcendental. Thus, during 2 seasons, the rainy season and the autumn, I had the opportunity to hear these great-souled sages constantly chant the unadulterated glories of the Lord Hari. As the flow of my devotional service began, the coverings of the mode of passion and ignorance vanished. I was very much attached to those sages. I was gentle in behavior, and all my sins were eradicated in their service. In my heart, I had strong faith in them. I had subjugated the senses, and I was strictly following them with body and mind. As they were leaving, those Bhakti Vedantas, who are very kind to poor-hearted souls, instructed me in that most confidential subject which is instructed by the personality of Godhead himself. By that confidential knowledge, I could understand clearly the influence of the energy of Lord Sri Krishna, the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything. By knowing that one can return to him and personally meet him. Although I took birth as a Shudra from the womb of a maidservant, I engaged in the service of Vaishnavas, who were well versed in Vedic knowledge. Consequently, in this life, I got the opportunity to take birth as the son of Lord Brahma. Sri Vyasadeva said, "What did you, Narada, do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed you in scientific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of your present birth? O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation, and how did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? O great sage, time annihilates everything in due course. So how is it that this subject matter, which happened prior to this day of Brahma, is still fresh in your memory, undisturbed by time?" Sri Narada said, "The great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed from other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. I was the only son of my mother, who was not who was not only a simple woman, but a maidservant as well. Since I was her only offspring, she had no other alternative for protection. She bound me with a tie of affection. She wanted to look after my maintenance properly, but because she was not independent, she was not able to do anything for me. The world is under the full control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of a puppet master. When I was a mere child of 5 years, I lived in a Brahmana school. I am dependent on my mother's affection and had no experience of different lands. Once upon a time, my poor mother, when going out one night to milk a cow, was bitten on the leg by a serpent, influenced by supreme time. I took this as the special mercy of the Lord. who always desires benediction for his devotees, and so thinking, I started for the north. After my departure, I passed through many flourishing metropolises, towns, villages, animal farms, mines, agricultural lands, valleys, flower gardens, nursery gardens, and natural forests. I passed through hills and mountains full of reservoirs of various minerals. Like gold, silver, and copper, and through tracts of land with reservoirs of water filled with beautiful lotus flowers, fit for the denizens of heaven, decorated with bewildered bees and singing birds. I then passed alone through many forests of rushes, bamboo, reeds, sharp grass, weeds, and caves, which were very difficult to go through alone. I visited deep, dark, and dangerously fearful forests, which were the play yards of snakes, owls, and jackals. Thus traveling, I felt tired, both bodily and mentally, and I was both thirsty and hungry. So I took a bath in a river, lake, and also drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from my exhaustion. After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree in an uninhabited forest, I began to meditate upon the supersoul situated within. Using my intelligence, as I had learned from liberated souls, as soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down my eyes, and without delay, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of my heart. O Vyasadeva, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord. The transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. I desired to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him any more. And thus dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved. Seeing my attempts in that lonely place, the personality of Godhead, who was transcendental to all mundane description, spoke to me with gravity and pleasing words, just to mitigate my grief. O Narada, the Lord spoke, I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. Those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me. O virtuous one, you have only once seen my person, and this is just to increase your desire for me. Because the more you hanker for me, the more you will be freed from all material desires. By service of the absolute truth, even for a few days, a devotee gains, a devotee attains firm and fixed intelligence in me. Consequently, he goes on to become my associate in the transcendental world after giving up the present deplorable material worlds. Intelligence engaged in my devotion cannot be thwarted at any time. Even at the time of creation, as well as at the time of annihilation, your remembrance will continue by my mercy. Then that supreme authority, personified by sound and unseen eyes, but most wonderful, stopped speaking. Feeling a sense of gratitude, I offered my obeisances unto him. Bowing my head, thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation. Ignoring all the formalities of the material world, such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious. And so, O Brahmana Vyasadeva, in due course of time, I, who was fully absorbed in thinking of Krishna, and who therefore had no attachments, being completely freed from all material taints, met with death, as lightning and illumination occur simultaneously. Having been awarded a transcendental body befitting an associate of the personality of Godhead, I quit the body made of 5 material elements, and thus acquired, and thus all acquired fruitive results of work. Karma stops. At the end of the millennium, when the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, lay down within the water of devastation, Brahma began to enter into him along with all creative elements, and I also entered through his breathing. After 4,300,000,000 solar years, when Brahma awoke to create again by the will of the Lord, all the rishis like Marichi, Angira, Atri, and so on were created from the transcendental body of the Lord, and I also appeared along with them. Since then, by the grace of the Almighty Vishnu, I travel everywhere without restriction, both in the transcendental world and in the 3 divisions of the material world. This is because I am fixed in unbroken devotional service of the Lord, and thus I travel, constantly singing the transcendental message of the glories of the Lord, vibrating this instrument called a veena, which is charged with transcendental sound, and which was given to me by Lord Krishna. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, whose glories and activities are pleasing to hear, at once appears on the seat of my heart, as if called for, as soon as I begin to chant his holy activities. It is personally experienced by me that those who are always full of cares and anxieties, due to desiring contact of the senses with their objects, can cross the ocean of nescience on a most suitable boat. The constant chanting of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. It is true that by practicing restraint of the senses by the yoga system, one can get relief from the disturbances of desire and lust. But this is not sufficient to give satisfaction to the body. For this satisfaction is derived from devotional service to the personality of Godhead. O Vyasadeva, you are freed from all sins. Thus I have explained my birth and activities for self-realization as you asked. All this will be conducive for your personal satisfaction also. Sutta Goswami said, thus addressing Vyasadeva, Srila Narada Muni took leave of him, and vibrating on his veena instrument, he left to wander at his free will. Commentary. The wonder of an atmosphere surcharged with devotional service to the Lord is briefly described herein by Sri Narada Muni. He was the son of the most insignificant parentage. He was not properly educated. The Vedantavadis initiated the boy even before he became self-controlled and was detached from childhood sporting, etc. But before the initiation, the boy became more and more advanced in discipline, which is very essential for one who wishes to make progress in the line. The Bhakti Vedantas were pure devotees, and the boy became infected with their qualities of purity by their association and by eating once the remnants of the foodstuffs taken by them. Such remnants may be taken even without permission of the pure devotees. Narada Muni has just explained this by his personal experience. The whole idea is that simply by hearing about the Lord's pastimes, one can become one of the associates of the Lord. Narada Muni has eternal life, unlimited knowledge, and unfathomed bliss. He can travel all over the material and spiritual worlds without restriction. One can attain to the highest perfection of life simply by attentive hearing of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord from the right sources, as Sri Narada heard them from pure devotees, Bhakti Vedantas, in his previous life. This process of hearing in the association of the devotees is especially recommended in this age of Kali. Because his complete energy was engaged in the service of the Lord, he became an immortal sage. Vyasadeva himself was the disciple of Naradaji, and therefore it was natural to be anxious to hear what Narada did after initiation from the spiritual masters. He wanted to follow in Narada's footsteps in order to attain to the same perfect stage of life. Sri Narada developed this spiritual consciousness even when he had his material body in the previous kalpa. Consciousness of the material body means spiritual consciousness expressed through the medium of a material body. The consciousness is inferior, destructible, and perverted. But superconsciousness of the supermind in the spiritual plane is as good as the spirit soul and is never annihilated. In his previous life, when Naradaji was impregnated with spiritual knowledge by the grace of the great sages, there was a tangible change in his life, although he was only a boy of 5 years. That is an important symptom visible after initiation by the bona fide spiritual master. Narada is known as the son of Brahma, as Lord Krishna is known as the son of Vasudeva. The personality of Godhead and his liberated devotees like Narada appear in the material world by the same process. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, the birth and activities of the Lord are all transcendental. Therefore, according to authorized opinion, the birth of Narada as the son of Brahma is also a transcendental pastime. His appearance and disappearance are practically on the same level as that of the Lord. The Lord and his devotees are therefore simultaneously one and different as spiritual entities. They belong to the same category of transcendence. Narada appears in the same transcendental body, just as a man awakes from sleep in the same body. Sri Narada is eternally free to move in all parts of the transcendental and material creations of the Almighty. He appears and disappears in his own transcendental body, which is without distinction of body and soul, unlike conditioned beings. Sri Narada Muni could enter all these planets in both the material and spherical spheres without restriction. As much as the Almighty Lord is free, to move personally in any part of his creation. In the material world, the living beings are influenced by the material modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. But Sri Narada Muni is transcendental to all these material modes, and thus he can travel everywhere unrestricted. He is a liberated spaceman. The causeless mercy of Lord Vishnu is unparalleled, and by such mercy is perceived by the devotees only by the grace of the Lord. Therefore, the devotees never fall down, but the materialists, i.e., the fruitive workers, and the speculative philosophers do fall down, being forced by their respective modes of nature. The rishis, as above mentioned, cannot enter into the transcendental world like Narada. This fact is disclosed in the Nalashim Purana. Rishis like Marichi are authorities in fruitive work, and rishis like Sanaka and Sanatana are authorities in philosophical speculations. But Sri Narada Muni is the prime authority for transcendental devotional service of the Lord. All the great authorities in devotional service of the Lord follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni in the order of the Narada Bhakti Sutra, and therefore all the devotees of the Lord are unhesitatingly qualified to enter into the kingdom of God Vaikuntha. Narada's Vina instrument. The goddess of the great sage, the goodness of the great sage, Narada Muni, is described herewith. He always chants about the pastimes of the Lord and delivers the fallen souls back to Godhead. In this regard, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung, Narada Muni Bhajaya Vina Radhika Ramana Name Nama Amani Utita Haya Bhakata Gita Same Ami Adara Varishegana Shravana Yugale Giya Bhakata Jana Sagane Nache Pariya Apanahiya Marhuri Pura Asaba Pashi Mataya Jakata Jane Kehava Kande Kehava Nache Keha Mate Mane Mane Pancha Vadana Nare Dari Premere Sagana Roda Kamala Sana Nachia Bale Bola Bola Hari Bola Sahasranana Paramasuke Hari Hari Barigaya Nama Prabhave Matila Vishva Nama Rasa Sabe Paya Shri Krishna Nama Rasane Spuri Purala Amara Asha Shri Rupa Pare Yachayeha Bhakavani Nodadasa. The purport of this song